Shane Burgos lost his anticipated PFL debut last night despite being a fan favorite. As you all know, lower MMA promotions pay former UFC fighters a lot more than the UFC just to catch some eyeballs with their name value. Bellator and ONE FC are getting success with this strategy as we see how UFC veterans like Ryan Bader, Yoel Romero and Demetrius Johnson are attracting many new MMA fans toward their promotions, but this is not the case with PFL. In this video, we will talk about top 5 UFC fighters who were signed by the PFL for making a good fortune for them as well as for the company, but they let everyone down. I'm the guy with the Indian accent and you are on Fightbook. Number 5. Jeremy Stephens. Stephens was one of the well-known UFC veterans who had a pretty solid hand and was famous for cracking solid chins. But aside from knocking out RDA and Josh Emmett, he was most famous for another thing. Stephens entered the PFL cage in April 2022 against Clay Collard but lost the fight via unanimous decision. He came back in the win column after 2 months just to get submitted and humbled in his last PFL fight in November 2022. Fun fact, Jeremy Stephens holds the most precious UFC record as he has 18 losses in the UFC, most in the company's history. Number 4. Marlon Moraes. Moraes is a former title challenger in the UFC and has wins over fighters like Aljamain Sterling and Jose Aldo. So despite his losses, he had a fan base. He announced his retirement from MMA in April 2022, leaving the UFC on a 4-fight knockout streak. Less than 6 months after announcing his retirement, Moraes announced that he would be signing with PFL for the 2023 featherweight tournament. Moraes was scheduled to face Shane Burgos in his PFL debut, but Burgos withdrew from the bout due to an injury. He was replaced by a fighter whom Marlon Moraes had already defeated once in his career, so it was supposed to be an easy fight for him. However, he lost the fight as well as his next one, extending his knockout streak from 4 to 6. Number 3. Thiago Santos. Santos is the only fighter to beat the MMA god on a judge's scorecard and also holds an impressive knockout win over former light heavyweight champion Jan Blachowicz. But despite his past accomplishments, I would say signing him in the hope that he would win their title was a dart throw as Santos left the UFC when he lost 5 of his last 6 fights. PFL put him against their reigning and defending champion in his PFL debut without giving him a build-up fight like Marlon Moraes. No wonder he lost that. Number 2. Shane Burgos. Unlike other UFC veterans who joined PFL, he was on a 2-fight win streak when he announced that he had signed with PFL because of the huge amount of money he was offered. As he was on a good run with the UFC, winning 8 of his 11 UFC fights and getting Fight of the Night bonus for each of his losses, stakes were high here. He also entered the Smart Cage against PFL's reigning and defending lightweight champion and lost by a unanimous decision. One good thing is that it was the very first round of the tournament, so we still can hope for a good future for him in the PFL. Number 1 is none other than Anthony Pettis. Pettis is a former UFC lightweight champion and a UFC star who headlined UFC PPVs not once, not twice, but 3 times. After beating Donald Cerrone and then Alex Morono, Pettis announced in December 2020 that he was choosing not to accept a new offer from the UFC and would be testing the free agent market. He was eventually signed by the PFL, who offered him more money than many of the UFC champs. He entered in PFL's 2021 lightweight tournament and lost both of his fights. Then in the 2022 lightweight tournament, he would win only 1 of his 3 fights. Now let's end the video with the hope that Shane Burgos will not become Anthony Pettis 2.0. If you enjoyed the video and my accent doesn't bother you, you should subscribe to this channel. I'll meet you tomorrow with some salary data of UFC Kansas City, so till then, do whatever you want.